Welcome to Blade HQ, everybody. Today's a very special day because Jerad Neeve is in the house.
Nice to meet you.
Yep. Jerad is a knife sharpening expert, and today we are going to tell you everything you need to know about sharpening. Let's talk knives. Jerad, tell us a little about yourself.
So I've been sharpening since I was a child, so since I was a little kid, but I didn't start taking it really serious probably till 7, 8 years ago, but I went all in on it and I started trying to learn everything from every stone to every type of steel, every type of blade shape, and I really got really deep into the fine details, the really fine details, and I spent a long time, like every day, just working on edges and studying them, even down to the microscopically. And you know, after a while, you wind up picking up and learning some of the things that are poor information and some things that's really good. And you wind up figuring out what works, what doesn't, what's the reality, and then what's not. And a lot of people, and I know I'd be probably one of those people that complicate it a little bit, but you don't have to. It can be brought down to a very simple process, which most people can understand as long as you understand what you're trying to accomplish. So that's the biggest part. Most people don't understand that, what they're trying to accomplish here. Because a sharp edge obviously is what you're going to, but how do you get to there, you know?
And that was a journey that you took, and for those of you who don't know, you can check out Neeve's Knives over on YouTube. We'll put a link in the description for it. That's his channel, and you can see all the crazy stuff he does with sharpening, from kitchen knives to little folders to everything in between, and he puts the scariest, sharpest edges you've ever seen. So Jerad, in this first section, let's talk about like basic freehand sharpening. When people think sharpening, they think this.
Yes, absolutely. So like I was saying before, the abrasive matters, and I always recommend to everybody to start with diamonds. Diamond plates require nothing. You don't need water, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is just start sharpening. When you're done sharpening, you can dust them off. So, and if you need to, you could rinse them off, but you want to dry them really good so they don't rust, but you really don't even need to do that if you just dust them off. Always start with something coarse, especially if you're doing reprofiling or if you're going to change angles, or if you're just doing a full-blown sharpening. It's always best to start with coarse because then it'll go faster.
So what is the difference between these flat stones and maybe one of these systems?
So not much. Actually, there's only a couple differences. One, with a bench stone, you're going to need a stone holder. And then the second thing is that this comes with angle guides already built in. Then it does flip. So you have two stones here. You got a 320, a 600, and then a ceramic. The ceramic's gonna be very important because we're gonna be able to use it for multiple different purposes. You can remove your burr with it, which is what we're gonna do today. You can micro bevel on it. You can use it as a polishing stone, a honing stone. So it's just a good multi-purpose stone to have, whether it's a bench, you know, a bench stone like this, or even on a fixed angled sharpening system.
All right, well, let's sharpen a knife.
Let's do it. So, just like I was saying, you know, we have these angle guides already built in. We're gonna remove them for this, so it'd be just like if I was doing on any bench stone, so that you guys can understand how to kind of find your own angle. So you have two different angles when you start sharpening. You have, you know, let me use the bench stone just to show this. You have the shape of the knife, which the only thing you have to move is your elbow to get the shape, which is just lifting your elbow up and down. Because when you have your edge angle sitting here, you're gonna have to get to the belly. So you're holding your angle to get to the belly, you lift your elbow. Once you have your angle though, you'll lock your wrist, and then as you're coming across the stone, like I was saying, in order to get to the tip, do not move your wrist. That's what's gonna mess you up, and that's what most people fail on, is they move their wrist.
They're trying to do some like mental trigonometry.
Yeah,
but
well, they go like this. And then what it does is it moves the very angle we want to lock, because we want this to be a perfectly flat bevel, or at least as flat as possible. And the only way to achieve that is to not move your wrist. So lock your wrist, get in a comfortable spot, lay the knife in your hand very comfortably. Make sure you know you're not going to be in an uncomfortable position. Once you have the angle you want, whether you use the angle guides or you're just freehanding like we are here, lock your wrist and then come across the stone at an angle, and that's gonna make sure your scratches are running at an angle. And then once you get to the belly, lift your elbow until the tip hits the stone, and you can use your finger if you want to pull it in a little bit. And then to go back, Now all I'm gonna do is lift up, not move my wrist, drop my elbow and go straight back. And I'm at the same angle now. So now I can easily repeat that as long as I'm not moving my wrist. So once we have the scratch pattern going from the top of the edge bevel, from the top of the bevel down to the apex, from the heel of the blade to the tip, we want to watch the scratches go from the top of the bevel. So every time we go with a pass, you're going to see the scratches getting closer and closer to the apex. Now, if you start at a higher angle, it's going to start from the bottom, but typically 98% of the time, the scratches, you're going to want them to start at the top of the bevel and work their way down. So every few passes, you can look at the edge and see the scratches and see where they're at. Once you see them hitting the apex, you can check for a burr. If you got a burr, you're ready to go to the other side. Now, I'm just going to do one edge trailing pass, and I do this just to make sure my burr isn't getting tore off, because I have a burr, right? The burr is a metal wire that accumulates at the apex. So as I sharpen this side of the edge, there's gonna be steel that folds over the opposite side. So we're sharpening this side, that means the burr is gonna be on the opposite side. And I take my finger and I just rub up the edge, and I can feel it's like a hook. It feels like a metal wire, and that's what it is. It's just metal debris folded over. Now, the burr is very important to getting a sharp edge. In the end, we want to properly remove it. Right now, if I just tear it off, there might not be any issues, but there could be. It could lead to microchipping and things like that. So in order to just, prevent that possibly from happening, I'm going to do one edge trailing pass from the tip to the heel, and I'm going to do this very gently. There's absolutely no pressure with this. It needs no pressure. The diamonds will flip that burr with no problem. Maybe do two. That's it. Now I'm going to start on this side, and I'm going to repeat the exact same process until the scratches are from heel to tip, top of the bevel, down to the apex, all at an angle, the angle that I'm cutting. All right, now we are going to flip to the next stone because we got the same exact result on the opposite side, and I can feel the burr from the heel to the tip. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna move my burr over by doing an edge trailing pass from tip to heel, very gentle, no pressure. I'm gonna do that a couple times until I can feel it out of the way. Then once it's out of the way, now I wanna repeat, same thing from the first stone on the second stone, because all I'm trying to do with the second stone is I'm trying to replace my scratch pattern with my new scratch pattern, which is 600 grit in this case. We went from 320 to 600.
And the lower the grit, it means the
bigger the serrations.
The big diamonds are.
Yeah, and bigger the diamonds and bigger the teeth. So just you think about that, the coarser the edge, the bigger the diamonds, which leads to bigger serrations. So in order to make the serrations a little tighter and a little finer, think of just a finer saw blade versus, really big toothy saw blade. We're just refining it a little bit, which shouldn't take very long because you're not doing a bunch of steel removal. You're mostly just removing scratches and replacing them with the new scratches. So we already have a burr on the opposite side. Same thing, edge trailing pass, just to get that burr out of the way. And now we're gonna go on this side. I'm going to go over to the ceramic, and now we're to one of the most important parts of knife sharpening, which is the burr removal. So now that I have the burr, we finished on this side, so the burr's on the opposite side. Now I'm going to want to basically think about it like a paper clip. If you fold a paper clip back and forth, it's eventually gonna snap off. What we don't wanna do is take the paper clip and just rip it off. We want it to naturally pop. Same thing with this burr. So we're gonna do those edge trailing passes from one side to the other. Very gentle, no pressure. You can try to do the exact same angle or slightly higher because remember, because we're not using any pressure, we're not worried about messing up our edge bevel or our scratches or anything. This is a very fine stone. These are like 5,000 grit. So to go from 600 to 5,000, it's not gonna affect our scratches too much, just don't push any pressure. And we're gonna do edge trailing passes, flipping the burr back and forth, very gently. And then we're gonna start doing some regular passes, some forward passes, which is now removing the rest of the burr. So most of it's fallen off already. Now we're just getting the rest of it off. And we are good. Now we just need to strap. So we have a strap on here, but we're gonna use the bigger strap because we have it out as well. And we're gonna do edge trailing passes. Never go edge leading into a strap because
you'll just cut right through it.
Right through it, right. So you do edge trailing, so you start at the tip, and the goal is for this abrasive to clean in between our micro serrations. So every serration has like a little bit of debris in between them still. So this is going to knock that off and remove it gently. No pressure because leather is malleable, so it can roll around your edge. So no pressure. Let the abrasive on the leather do the work. And then now, ooh, this is very sharp. The way you check it to make sure you're done is you're gonna take your nail and you wanna rub your nail gently up the apex and make sure it's smooth. You don't wanna feel any little spots. You don't wanna feel anything basically. The next thing is we're gonna take our finger and we're just gonna barely touch the edge. No pressure, you're literally just almost like kind of scooping your edge like that on the edge. And what you're feeling for is the microscopic serrations. You wanna make sure it has bite. Very gently, and I can feel the bite, feels really, really good. Now we'll just gently pull it through the paper from heel to tip and see if it's nice and clean all the way to the tip, and it is.
So we just did a lot of work here.
Yep.
We made ourselves a nice sharp edge.
Very sharp.
Do we have to do this every single time, or is there ways to maintain it in the meantime?
Yeah, so what you want to do is you're gonna have to eventually resharpen again, but very important, and this goes for everybody. I don't care if you're really into knives or not. Everybody should know how to maintain their edges. So if you buy a new chef knife or you have a new kitchen knife or something, you should know how to keep it sharp. So how do you maintain something like this before you've sharpened it? So like from a factory edge or after you've sharpened it? Well, the best way is having a diamond rod or a ceramic rod. In this case, we have it on the WorkSharp Field Sharpener, or you can also have a ceramic plate. And now this is very easy to do. The biggest problem people have with what we're about to do is they put way too much effort. So
don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. It's so easy. When you guys see how easy this is, it's not even gonna make sense. You're gonna think like it's impossible. There's no way it's that easy, but it is. In fact, we can even take, and this is an edge. This is a diamond rod, by the way. We're gonna cut that edge off. You see that? It's not cutting at all. It is tearing. If you want to try it, you can try it just to make sure. I could be lying.
Yeah, I mean, it has thin edge geometry. If you can get it to just barely go, you can kind of saw through, but that's a dull knife.
Right. And this would be a perfect time when to hone it. So we're gonna lay it on the angle guide, and if it was a rod, you can use this base as the angle guide, or you can use your thumb, use the back of your thumb like that, and so you can repeat it. Or you can just, freehand it. So on this, we're gonna use the angle guide, and all I'm gonna do is no pressure. Like I could literally use 2 fingers, and I'm gonna do one pass, go to the other side, no pressure, next pass. And in many cases, you'll literally do this 3 or 4 times per side, and that's it. And now we could go a little bit more, and we'll see if we're gonna need to, but we might have to. Nope, we're not done yet.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet, so there we go. I felt it there. I had just a little bit of pressure. Depending on how much damage you do, will depend on how much, but this is so simple. So now, there we go. So now I would go to the strap and I would do a few gentle passes on there, but you notice how it only took a few passes. I didn't have to, like 100 passes. I don't have to put a bunch of pressure. It's literally just a little bit of pressure. And we just dulled this on a diamond and brought it back in 10 seconds. And yeah, and that's how you can maintain your edge. Now, when this stops working, you have to go to sharpening. So hit it before it's dull. Then if this stops working, then you go to the honing rod. And then back to the strap. So you hone it on the rod, back to the strap. But when this stops working, time to sharpen.
So what I hope each of you have learned in this video is, just like Jerad was saying, it's not as much pressure as you think. It's not as difficult as you think. Don't let anybody on YouTube or TikTok or, heaven forbid, that man in the van at the state fair tell you that this is harder than it is. I hope each of you feel empowered to sort of take your knife maintenance journey into your own hands. Not be afraid of the fancy steels, but know that if you have the right tools and a little bit of practice, you can sharpen anything.
Yep, and start with the right stone, meaning start with a coarse, abrasive stone. Don't start with a fine. A lot of people do that, and that's where they make a big mistake. They start like with 1,000 grit when they should be using a 300, and they're wondering, why is this taking me 2 hours? Well, you're starting with a stone that's not removing any metal, you know?
Yeah, you're trying to accelerate in 10th gear.
Right.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us. If you want to learn more about knife sharpening, this is just a drop in the bucket of Jerad's knowledge. Head over to Neeve's Knives over on YouTube, and he will teach you all there is. Join him for the lives. Ask him questions. You will learn a lot from Jerad, just as I have.
Thank you guys for watching.
We'll see you next time.